Hi, I'm Simon, and as you know, I'll be your Elementor for today. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you the tricks that will transform your long-form content into a visually captivating masterpiece. Now, you've just spent the better part of a week researching a subject, drinking coffee, gathering background information, in-depth insight, drinking more coffee, interviewing experts, colleagues and friends, keyword research, more coffee, then sitting through all that, writing your first draft, running out of coffee, your second draft, but braver still, you're trying tea. And you have created a third draft. And lo and behold, it's your epic blog post, 4,000 words long. You upload it to the site, and you've got to admit, it's hideous. It's a drab and dreary wall of words, a daunting, monstrous mass of font. And in all honesty, even you wouldn't read it. And that's because there's more to epic blog posts than written content alone. What's missing? In a word, visuals. Visuals aren't merely for decoration. They create spacing elements that provide the written matter with pace and rhythm. They also tweak the interest of the reader, and things like a cool graphic can taunt them to move forward. A great long post must be well designed, and you could argue that long form is an art form. Now, if this seems overwhelming, don't worry, we've got you covered, because today we're sharing the top design tricks that our content team uses to create the layouts with visual content that make our articles look like the kind that you would like to post. So here we are at square one. I've opened a new post, I'm in the Elementor editor, and the only thing I've done so far is pasted my text using the text editor widgets and the heading widgets, making sure, of course, that I have pasted it cleanly with no formatting. I'm going to be using pre-saved global widgets and templates in this tutorial, all from our very own posts, to give you an idea of how we can use appealing visual elements to break up this massive text into digestible sections. Because right now, a reader will be looking at this and thinking that it looks like too much hard work, or I really don't have the time and patience to sit through all this. Now, first, I'll use a collage of images to break up the top of my article. I'll add it in a new section and find my collage template. As you can see, it's already looking much better, breaking up that first paragraph. Perhaps these are images that I will be using individually later on in the article. Perhaps they are examples of what can be done with a certain technique or tool. The goal here is to whet the appetite of the reader. We're confirming that this article is related to what they are interested in, possibly saying that by the end of this article, readers will have the knowledge needed to create similar images. Now I'll use a block quote to break up the next section of my article. Now, I don't see them as text because they have more decorative aspects. They can also be engaging if you make them clickable. I'll select the block quote global widget and drag it to here. Now I will click unlink, which is very important because so long as this global widget is linked, any changes I make for this post will be applied wherever this widget appears across the site. All this space that we're generating translates into a fresh, streamlined feel that plays a major part in the experience. The last thing we want the reader to feel is overwhelmed. The next block of text is fairly big, so now I'll use an icon list to create a nice field of space. Again, I'm going to select my icon list global widget and unlink again. Now, apart from creating a nice breadth of space in the article, lists are also great when you want to summarize your main points or list pros and cons. Don't forget that as human beings, we tend to enjoy lists because they help us organize detailed information so that we can remember it better. This is true for any lists, by the way, numbered lists, bullet lists, even a table of contents. You might want to consider turning one of your detail-heavy paragraphs into a list. For example, I've taken the paragraph below and already created this list, so I can now delete the paragraph and I've got a nice coherent list. Right, now I'm going to bring out the big guns and place a video. As with all these visual elements, you can place them anywhere. Some will always place videos at the top of their posts. others in the middle. We feel that every visual element should have a reason. Will it draw interest? Will it keep the reader engaged? Every post has its own personality. Now, as you can see, this video is running on a loop, very similar to an idea of embedding a GIF image, which, by the way, is another great way to break up chunks of written matter. But videos offer better quality and more detail than a GIF. This is a short video and it's self-hosted. Now, the advantage of that, as opposed to using, say, YouTube videos, for example, is that commercial video platforms will always have that distinct look and UI. They don't always loop nicely either. This way, we have a nice organic-looking feature running smoothly on a seamless loop. Speaking of organizing information, visualizing data with graphs and tables is another great way to break up a mass of text and make the experience just that more engaging. This way, readers get a break from constantly reading left to right. Now they can read top to bottom. We also enjoy that moment when we try to decipher the structure of a graph, like solving a puzzle. Now, this area here looks far too dense, and I'll just break that up by putting some of it in a separate section. Now that I've created a gap, I'm going to bring up my table segment template, and there we are. Now, we can go on and on like this, but I think that you guys are literally getting the picture here. Now, let's just remind ourselves of what our content looked like before. And now for the big reveal. I mean, what a difference a widget makes. But now that we've seen what we should be doing, let's go over what we should not be doing. Text alignment and spacing. What we want to do is avoid the same kinds of things that cause reading fatigue and eye strain. Don't let the text run from one side of the screen to the other, especially as most desktop screens are wide, and it can become extremely tiresome to stay focused, following a line running the entire length of the screen. Don't make the spacing between the paragraphs and headings too dense. Again, this causes readers to lose their place and makes it very hard to follow and focus. The same goes for lengthy sentences and lengthy paragraphs. Too many links. Yes, backlinking is good, but this is too much. This looks like Swiss cheese at this point. Too many keywords spread too densely is also a major no-no. Google bots are not programmed by idiots. They will know that when keywords are too dense, the writer has ulterior motives to providing in-depth content. At this point, Google is probably thinking that this Swiss cheese also has a bad case of the measles. Don't create long, listy paragraphs. Again, we want the reader to get engaged, not get frustrated when they can't solve this Gordian knot of data. Depending on the content, you may want to create a table for something like this, or to write short paragraphs. This structure is going to frustrate even the most avid Reddit readers. Too many images make it too difficult to read and follow. In a case like this, it would have been better if there were no images at all. There is a rule of thumb that people are quoting when you should be using a graphic image or video every 80 to 100 words or so. But it's just a rule of thumb. Use your gut instinct as a designer to make it pleasant, or use your gut instinct as a content creator to write in a captivating way so that your material is clear and engaging on its own merits. Speaking of writing, make sure that you keep your headlines clear. Make sure that your headlines motivate interest and curiosity, but make them clear so that even at a glance, we know what it is you're going to be speaking about in the paragraph below. So that this title here, Why, tells me very little. I mean, it hints towards something, but let's make it a little more informative and maintain some of that curiosity. Another thing is, don't lose your structure. As human beings, we like all things to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And as readers, we are no different. Make sure that you actually have an introduction and introduce what it is your piece is about. Make sure that the middle builds upon itself further and further in a linear fashion, and then draw a conclusion, a summary. Perhaps even ask a question to get the reader thinking about what you wrote hours after they finished reading. We've just reviewed different ways to use visuals to turn big, bland blocks of written content into prolonged and engaging reading experiences. In doing so, we hope we have inspired you to use your ingenuity and creative prowess to push the limitations of the tools and widgets at your disposal and turn your epic blog post into the work of art it deserves to be. As always, we'd appreciate any comments and insight that you may have. We want to hear any criticism and obviously any helpful tips that could help other users. After all, our goal is to be the best at helping others excel at their craft. Thanks for watching. Cheers.